and we'll look back at, we're celebrating already what happened last year. I know I have my hat on from last year, and I saw some signs from last year. So we'll celebrate last year and look back, and we're going to march forward. After our speakers are done, we'll take a march around town if you like, if you're not too cold by then. This march is not only taking place all across America, but all across the world in different cities. And they're celebrating the January 2017 Women's March, the progress that has been made since then. And have we made progress since then? Yes! Did we women show people all over the world, what it is to be sisters and what it is to get together and how much power we have when we gather together and use our voices. And we're finding our voices. This has been a year of finding our voices once again. So, but with that, you don't want to hear from me. We want to hear from Jenny Wilson. Jenny is running for U.S. Senate for Orrin Hatch's seat in... Yeah!
Well, thank you. Well, how about this, Logan, Utah? Look at you. You look pretty great from up here, I can tell you that. Well, thank you. I am so honored to be here today. I started out very early trying to make it up to Parley Summit from my home in Salt Lake City up to the march in Park City. So I did that. That was amazing. There's some amazing people in from Sundance, names that you'd all recognize and see in various capacities, and that was a really fun thing to be there. But I'm enjoying this one even more. The real heart and soul of Northern Utah here in Logan, and I see such diversity here and such joy. And let's give a shout out to Cache County and Logan, Utah. So, on a little bit more of a somber note, I'm not going to lie. January 20th of 17 was a very, very low day for me, and I know for many of you. I remember looking at my children thinking, what are we going to do? What do we do now? But by the end of the day, that Saturday, January 21st, I knew that all of us would know what to do in the year that lies ahead. Looking back 1 year later, no one can deny that women across the country, women in Cache County, and in every county in Utah, have stepped up, come together, and are ready to work harder in 2018. And now, since I decided to run for the United States Senate in May, over the months I've given some thought to a Utah woman. A Utah woman many of you have heard of, some of you may not have heard of. Martha Hughes Cannon. Anybody know who I'm talking about? So Martha Hughes Cannon was a mother, a doctor, a suffragette, and in 1896, she became the first woman elected state senator in the country. And she was from Utah. It's hard to believe. Yes, Utah was the first state in the country to elect a woman to its state house. But Maddie, she was a tough cookie. She took on 4 male candidates, including her husband, something I wouldn't dare do, and she won. Maddie certainly had moxie. And I have to share a great line from an editorial endorsing Maddie. Mrs. Maddie Hughes Cannon, his wife, is the better man of the two. Yes. Send Mrs. Cannon to the state senate and let Mr. Cannon, a Republican, remain at home to manage home industry. How's that? Seems like quite the endorsement to me. Utah may have elected the first woman to be a state senator, but in the over 120 years since Maddie headed to the state house, we have never elected a woman to the U.S. Senate. And I'm pretty sure 2018 is going to be the year we do it. But this woman is going to need your help. As a fifth-generation Utahn raising her family here, I certainly understand the challenges Utah families face. And as a member of the Salt Lake County Council, I've worked hard to address many of the same concerns faced by my friends here in Cache County. Access to good jobs, protecting our environment, and economic development that supports both the bottom line, but also creates community and supports a community's quality of life. So, we stood together January 2017. We're standing together today in January 2018. And in November 2018, we're going to march into the voting booth and we're going to elect women, and maybe a few men, who will stand up for the values that make us Utahns and Americans. Affordable health care, protecting CHIP for years to come. And I reflect more on CHIP today as we see a government shutdown and a mess and a division. And I think, why can't we come together, solve problems, and do exactly what the people standing here today want us to do in Washington? Move forward, enact policies that make sense, and enact policies that are meaningful. And I'll be honest to say, I'm very hopeful that we can work it out this week, because we all deserve better than our national parks not allowing us to come in and potentially service people not getting paid, and all of the other things that come with a failed leadership at the federal level. I want to make college affordable, make home ownership attainable. And finally, the dreamers who have only known this country as home, it's about time they become the citizens all of us know they already are. So thank you for inviting me. I think it's so poetic, it just started snowing. I really am very, very grateful and so amazed to see this incredibly diverse and interesting crowd. I love the signs, love not hate, love trumps hate, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Your signs are amazing. It's really so wonderful to have you here, and we're in this together, and we got to keep working together, and we got to keep marching on. I want to close by saying Maddie Hughes would be pretty tickled to see you all here today, and I'm sure she'd tell us to keep fighting for equality. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Jenny, for coming up here to be with us. Thank you. Show me what democracy looks like. That's what democracy looks like. All right. Our next speaker is Colleen O'Neill. She is Associate Professor of History at USU, and she's founder of the Utah League of Native American Voters. And we'll see what she has for us today.
Co-founder, not founder. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and it's wonderful to see you all here today. It's such a great turnout on the anniversary of the historic Women's March. Indeed, we are part of history in the making. And since I'm a historian, I thought I would lend my professional service to offer some brief thoughts about the past and help us ready ourselves for the fight that is to come. Now, my first real job out of college in 1984 was as an organizer for a group called National Action Against Rape. As part of our work, we tried to change laws in California to make it illegal for husbands to rape their wives. That's how far we've come. Well, we worked to change laws that treated rape victims as simply witnesses to crime, and to change police procedures that denied women justice and stripped them of their humanity. We held speak-outs, which was the precursor to social media, by the way. where women empowered themselves by telling their Me Too stories. As long as I can remember as a woman, and as far back as I understand as a historian, men have used sexual assault and sexual harassment as a way to maintain their power and to preserve their patriarchal privileges in war, family, work, public spaces, and as a weapon to reinforce racial hierarchies. Women have been seeking justice and demanded men's accountability for a long time. And if any of you saw Oprah's Golden Globe speech, you heard about Reese Taylor, who confronted her attackers in 1944 in Alabama. And then we remember Anita Hill, who in 1991 bravely testified in Congress to shed light on Clarence Thomas's history of sexual harassment. While Congress didn't act, Hill's testimony raised the country's consciousness about sexual harassment in the workplace. In 2006, Tarana Burke founded a movement to change rape culture by teaching young women of color, quote, and then these are her words, what the world thinks about us, what we've seen the world do to girls who look like us. Then she would teach those girls, quote, why the world was wrong. Yes, Then last October, Alyssa Milano posted the famous hashtag #MeToo, and the internet exploded. A few powerful men started losing their jobs. So what's going on? Are we in the midst of a cultural shift? It seems that the difference between Anita Hill's time and our own, or even since November 8th, 2016 and today, is that suddenly some men are now being held accountable for their harassment and violence. Women are speaking up, and their abusers are now being held to task for their behavior. Of course, this might be only true for celebrities or men in the media spotlight. But it seems that at least the culture is saying, as Oprah so eloquently put, time's up. So what happened? What has changed since 1944, 1991, and November 2016? The Women's March happened. How many of you were there? Anybody go to D.C.? Okay. How many were in Park City? How many were here? Yeah, a few hearty souls. How many were in Salt Lake? I was in Salt Lake. Like its Washington, D.C. sister, it was the largest demonstration the Capitol had ever seen. That was truly inspirational. But better yet, what's even more inspiring are the number of women who are stepping up, running for office, like Jenny Wilson, organizing their communities, organizing campaigns to challenge the protection of public lands, and reproductive justice. Now, the Women's March may not have been the sole inspiration for many of these women to stand up, but it showed the world our collective urgency and our political power. And of course, the election of Donald Trump, a man who has yet to be accountable for his predatory behavior, has probably pushed many of us to get out and do something. The Women's March followed on the heels of the most important movement in social movement history, the gathering at Standing Rock. For 11 months, thousands braved the harsh weather and endured the violent tactics of the oil company's private security forces in solidarity with the people of Standing Rock. who were fighting to protect their water source from the ravages of the Black Snake, the Dakota Access Pipeline. And we managed to win. Let's not forget that. We need to remember that. Even if it was a brief victory, mass mobilization worked until Donald Trump set the clock back, snubbed his nose at democracy, and put the greed of oil companies ahead of the sovereignty of native nations and the health and welfare of people and the planet. So what's next? We know organizing works. We felt its power. Now the victories may be slow in coming and may be hard to recognize in the moment. And it might take us a long time. So we must stay vigilant and secure our place in the longer historical struggle. Now what can we do? We can keep doing what we've been doing, participate in a spectrum of actions, vote, and mobilize others to vote. Support women running for office. March in the streets. Flood your U.S. congressional delegation with phone calls, letters, and personal visits. And do your part in changing the culture of rape that Tarana Burke has been working on for so long. One of the things you can do at the local level, believe it or not, is to bake. Bake for reproductive justice. The Chocolate Festival is coming up February 3rd. It's a fundraiser for Planned Parenthood of Utah and the Logan Clinic. We have a new venue this year. It's bigger, so those of you who hate crowds, although everyone's here, they must love a crowd. But those of you who hate crowds, it's going to be at the Riverwoods Conference Center, so it's a little bit bigger. So since it's so much bigger, we need more chocolate. So look for volunteers in the crowd. There should be some volunteers with Planned Parenthood paraphernalia. And find out and get a brochure to find out how you can participate. You've never had so much fun doing political work as volunteering for the Chocolate Festival, I promise. So I know you're cold, so I'll leave you here with one thought. I want you to remember and know that you are making history.
Yeah.
You are. You are here. You are here. You are engaged. You are all part of an important moment in time when people are mobilized to combat injustice on many fronts. I have faith that if we keep up the fight, we will turn this ship around, change our political leadership and the culture of racism and misogyny that keeps it afloat.
Yeah!
Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. What a good speaker, huh? Hey, we are the people. Look at, clap your hands, get them warm there for a minute. We are the people. Yes, we are. I've been wandering around collecting a few signs. My American values: equality, justice, empathy, science. Yeah, our American